There's no giraffe.
He's like,
it's a magnum dong.
Or maybe it's part of a giraffe. That's one way to look.
Oh wow, that's a strong dog. Although I want to think that he's using some of his leg weight to hold it.
Yeah, he is.
Look at this. What on with all this ass? Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon. Hella ass. The sun is still out.
Oh no.
Sir, when you quit the
Pretty
Fortnite dancing,
close.
Yeah. Say goodbye to your kneecaps, Chucklehead.
what is it?
Yeah, I don't know what that was. Oh,
5 seconds. Good luck. Enjoy the video. Oh, what? Why is my apple pen on the floor? What is
I
this?
mean, this is literally memes by Crush with no gun.
it's so fucking good at toast.
James Charles.
Just put it in the toaster.
They're doing it.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
There you go. The world is new. You open my eyes. Yeah, that doesn't work.
What the hell kind of toast is that?
Burnt toast because they put it in the wrong way.
With 2 black lines down it?
Oh, that's a pretty cute.
Think about your house, right?
Nah, I gotta go home. Go play some video games.
What? Come on, don't be playing, man.
Nah, it's fine. I'm gonna go home.
Oh, he's missing one of the things on his glasses.
Yo, Fred, shake it. Yo, Babble, shake it. Yo, T, what's good, bro? Huh? Yo, what's spot? Yo, who the fuck is this nigga?
Nesquik.
Oh my god.
We found it, Nesquik counter.
Point Loma. Where is Point Loma?
It's all chocolate.
How?
I knew it.
Why? What?
It's either chocolate or pollution. Probably the last.
Really?
Or maybe they're near sand? A shallow island?
That could be.
Yes, I'm not dying.
You're not dying. What's going on? Why did you tell me that?
Oh my god.
Looks like the flight's coming to you.
Stark is dying.
Great. Iron Man turned into Patrick.
Oh.
Yeah.
This motherfucker got the top down and the windows down. You know what the fuck he tells me? He said, lock the door. Look at him walking away. Look at him. Hey, that's some bullshit.
Yeah. An open roof car. Oh wow, the light up in the dark. Yeah, that's new in a disco where you put on a headphones.
No!
Hey, catch it.
That was awful.
Well, Mama Star Wars things about your bands, yo. Corey, what are things about your bands for you?
It's a green.
Dog hates it. What?
Pass me a ball. A what? A ball of what? Pass you what? Come to me.
Yeah, that's
I said a
English.
ball of what? It's like
What?
oh,
They
you
don't pronounce it.
I don't know.
water.
Where's
Y'all don't have no T's in y'all vocabulary? Dang, a bottle of water. Dang.
Certain accents in England, they don't speak the VR.
Yeah.
They do drink tea, but they don't pronounce
Oh,
it.
wow. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Oh, it's still July. We can still accept this. Okay.
Oh, stop it.
That cat.
I hate these rings.
Wow. Yeah, that's very.
They must have won. What the frick?
Well, he
What?
really likes those fries.
Because he's stuck in them.
I want the one at the bottom.
What's going on? Bro, what the fuck is fucking Vegas drivers, bro? What the fuck? It's alright.
Jesus. Oh my God. Exactly. Oh, hell no. I know this freaking TikTok too well.
Is that their school presentation how to dress like a slut? Or something?
Pretty much. The hell?
Hey!
Yo, I get the hell off my lampshade, damn it. I paid $2 for that.
It is super good. The fuck is there being there? How the fuck did he get in?
Wait a minute.
Next down.
Scar, brother, help me. This one got 1 billion views.
Look, Gwen, you have to treat a car like you treat a woman.
Go on.
No, I sense I've made a mistake of some kind.
Nothing.
We're gonna take some weak stickies.
You get no bitches!
In French, when you want to say yes, you say
You gotta be kidding me. Oh my god. That is hysterical. Oh man, what do you say for no? You? Hey, I'll be right back. I gotta go take a wicked yes.
Hell nah.
Yeah, disabled people just go to the settings and enable it.
This morning,
Oh God.
I went to the park without you, and I saw some other dogs there, and I gave them pets. I'm sorry, Momo. Ew, what the fuck do I smell?
It's filthy.
You want me to explode?
Yes, that's what I've been waiting for.
Okay, I'll try.
Oh yeah, that spider. I've seen that spider around so many times. Would you climb up?
Thanks again for dropping in, and we hope you've enjoyed the evening as much as we've enjoyed having you.
Yeah, it ain't good night yet, boys.
No, overtime.
PlanetDolan. Don't
McDonald's has led the fast food industry for decades, but even then they had their fair share of bad ideas. What meatless burger was a failed solution for Catholics during Lent? What experiment added seaweed extract to the beef patty? These are McDonald's greatest menu flops of all time. I'm PlanetDolan, and today will be your narrator. Number 15. The McAfrica was United Airlines level PR disaster in 2002. McDonald's in Norway introduced a fairly innocuous burger that came wrapped in a pita and was topped with an exotic and spicy menu. The big problem with the McAfrica wasn't the food. It was naming a fast food product the McAfrica. While the actual continent of Africa was going its worst famine in decades, and millions were on the brink of starvation. Naturally, McDonald's responded to criticism by continuing to sell the sandwich and then re-releasing it for the 2008 Olympics. Number 14. The Arch Deluxe was an attempt by McDonald's to attract adults with a more sophisticated palate. They pitched the burger by pointing out features like extra fancy ketchup.
You can't make McDonald's fancy.
Despite their attempts to make it look fancy, the
It's like showing up in your prom tuxedo to McDonald's.
The problem is, McDonald's spent a lot of money on advertising for the Arch Deluxe. They spent $150 million on commercials that showed them being disgusted by the taste. It's considered one of the most expensive product flops in company history. Number 13. There are some places you don't trust to do spaghetti right.
Yeah, this ketchup and noodles.
They never knew that
It could have been a lot worse. While mixed
With the big white Parmesan
they're trying out
cheese.
fettuccine and lasagna in test markets. Oddly enough, the mixed spaghetti lives on the Philippines, where it is reportedly a popular and tasty menu item. Number 12.
Probably made it better.
McDonald's has a hard time with Roman Catholics during Lent. Taking meat off the table eliminates a good portion of the McDonald's menu, and so there aren't too many reasons for them to show up. Enter the hula burger, a meatless offering geared specifically to those.
You know, fried.
Hell no.
It's just a piece of pineapple with cheese melted on it. Slap on the bun.
That's
Shouts
cheap.
out to the pineapple. Number 11. McDonald's keeps trying to sell pizza for some reason. On numerous occasions, McDonald's has tried getting into pizza, and they've even tried calling it Big Pizza. It never takes off, partially because they're late to order and it takes too long. However, there's reportedly a pair of
That's a nice one for the so-called conspiracy theorists. There's 33 in it.
Hopefully they're not just using the rest of that. Number 10. Unlike a lot of
I mean, you got Domino's Pizza, which is why McDonald's has beyond it hell fun.
It wasn't a terrible idea on paper. The problem was that people simply didn't like them. They lasted less than a year on the menu, and McDonald's was so desperate to get rid of them, they dropped the price 40% just to clear out the stock in what was known as chicken wing clearance. That might have something to do with the fact that they looked like in the ads and like this in real life. Number 9. Hey, let's chop up some onions, batter them, fry them. This is an actual thought someone had in McDonald's test kitchen. Before someone else decided to call them onion nuggets. They were introduced as part of a push to expand the chain's dinner options.
So someone burning onions. Why do that?
You're already cry eating onions. Why the frick do I need a
Ray
nugget?
Kroc banned hot dogs from all his restaurants despite all potential demand because he thought they were unsanitary. But hey, Ray Kroc died in 1984. So in the 1990s, some McDonald's store in the Midwest and Canada went against the late founder's vision and experimented with the McHot dog. They no longer talk about the McHot dog. Number 7. The basic premise of the McBLT is that you have to put it together yourself, touting a revolution.
Oh yeah, Family Guy did a freaking gag on that.
Containers. McBLT's packaging was meant to separate the hot part from the cool lettuce and tomato. Unfortunately, this was around the time people were figuring out styrofoam was really bad for the environment, and that made the McBLT a double offender. Also, Jason Alexander did a cringe-worthy minute-long commercial complete with singing and dancing.
Oh, come on!
Which is actually worse than it sounds.
Yep. Duckman, everybody.
And
Soup
Seinfeld.
is just Campbell's soup in McDonald's branded cups. Nobody asked for this. The idea was that people might go.
Okay, Subway has soup. Why does McDonald's
eat? And trusted brand, but it turns out nobody really goes to McDonald's for Campbell's soup in a small cup.
That was Campbell's?
Everybody loves a big drink, so here's a slightly smaller version called the Son of a Man. That removes one of the
They
big
should call it son of a bitch.
McDonald's really changed the game when they introduced the regular hamburger. Number 4. Just try saying McDonald's chopped beef steak sandwich without gagging a little. Damn it, this thing looks basically like the McRib and was part of an attempt to introduce dinner-friendly options.
I tried the McRib.
Only instead of trying to taste like ribs, it was trying to taste like a steak. Doubling up the fail, they paired this monstrosity with the also doomed onion nugget. Number 3. McDonald's wants you to know that McDonald's cares about your dietary needs.
No, they
That's why
don't.
McDonald's has introduced the McLean Deluxe. The McLean Deluxe is a low-calorie option to the usual hamburger that offers a beef patty that is 91% fat-free. That's because we added water and seaweed extract to the beef. Enjoy! Number 2. Every so often, McDonald's tries to get classy and offer something upscale because they forgot that they're McDonald's. McDonald's Angus burgers touted quality Angus beef at right around the time restaurants were throwing Angus on everything they could find. They tried selling
First
burgers
off,
for about $4 to
Hardee's
$5
is
each,
better.
but the taste was indistinguishable from similar burgers on the dollar menu, so they never really took off and were discontinued in 2013. Number 1. The McLobster promised a 100%
What?
real.
I still remember when McLobster was everywhere.
That was probably true, as the offering only ever hit New England and East
Of
Coast.
course.
But regardless
That's
of
why.
whether lobster
It was
or
everywhere in
not,
Connecticut.
general consensus
Well,
is that the sandwich was too
yeah,
expensive.
I
It
didn't
didn't
know
actually
that.
taste like
I
lobster.
remember.
McDonald's is actually trying this experiment again as a lobster roll. Has been available in some markets during the summers of 2015 and 2016, and has actually been received somewhat positively.
Red
At
Lobster
least they're not
better.
calling it the McLobster.
There's gotta be. Hold on.
McDonald's.
I got another one.
From Hamburger University, the public right to
Oh,
relax
that one.
toys. We
Yeah.
kept 15 fun and
I bet it's
fascinating
cute.
facts about the
What
fast
is
food
that?
chain very well
Oh,
known around the
God.
globe. Number 50,
Burn it with fire.
Job. The well-known dictionary Merriam-Webster added the term McJob to its lineup.
Hey,
defined
Morgan.
as a low-paying job
What?
that requires little skill and provides
Pause for a
little
second.
opportunity.
What?
They said the Mac job. I wonder if there's like a Mac gas station and job.
God.
Ah.
for advancement. McDonald's immediately
Oh, God.
called for its removal since the
God.
term
Probably.
really sullied their line of it.
Who knows?
So Merriam-Webster held fast with the response, "We stand by the accuracy and appropriateness of our definition." Burn. Number 14. The pay gap. During the last 10 years, this pay gap between McDonald's CEOs and its workers has doubled. In fact, it's gotten so bad that some employees
Hasn't any
continue to
job?
hold strikes demanding higher wages simply to get by on the monetary scraps flung down from the executive table. With living costs rising and wages remaining the same, some even resort to working at multiple McDonald's just to survive. Kind of a tragic thing. Number
Oh,
13, the McDonald Archers. Unbelievably, in a poll conducted by Sponsorship Research International, they found 88% of the population could identify the yellow McDonald Archers, but only 54% recognized the cross that crucified Jesus Christ.
What?
This is due to the heavy marketing budget allotted to
Dang.
McDonald's, over $2 billion extending to television, the internet, and public advertisements. Even crazier is that 96% of children from schools could identify Ronald McDonald more than any other fictional character ever, only beaten out by Santa Claus. Number 12, the original business of McDonald's. It seems obvious to
Yeah,
everyone
piss
that
off
Mac is
Santa,
a
Ronald
fast food
McDonald.
restaurant and nothing else. But if you were to ask the original founder from
Even though he
1974,
hasn't appeared
Ray
on TV
Kroc,
much
that very
since 2010.
question, he would reply with the answer, well, actually no. The purpose of McDonald's is real estate. That's right, the primary focus of his business was location, 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 followed by marketing, brand recognition, and finally the food itself. He knew from the very beginning that a poorly placed restaurant would fail, but a colourful restaurant with a logo that extends into the sky
Well,
would be
that
noticed
is
by
true.
everyone. Number 11. McDonald's originally did not have drive-thrus. It is so commonplace to us now that it's hard to imagine a Macca's without a drive-thru, but it was in 1975, near an Arizona military base, that one building incorporated a drive-thru, simply to let soldiers stationed there buy food, since at the time they weren't allowed to leave their car while dressed in fatigues. From that point, it worked out so
Oh,
well
yeah.
that almost all future McDonald's would feature a drive-thru, and the idea of fast food took hold. Number 10. Marketing towards kids. It's likely never occurred to you, but a lot of criticism has been leveled at McDonald's because of how heavily they
Well,
market towards
did
kids.
you know that you even
Why?
had
Well,
drive-through
think about it.
banks
Things like Happy
at
Meals
one
and the toy
point?
bundles are actually a way to
Oh, yeah,
market
we have those.
generation, thus
Yeah, we
Oh.
got 'em.
lifelong
In Germany, we had them
In fact,
for
this is the very
a
reason
big
they
in
do.
the
Even a documentary like
60s.
Super Size Me can't stop the juggernaut business from snagging its delicious
Oh my God, I would
juicy
kill for that
retail
Spider-Man
find.
lunchbox.
Number 9. Hamburgerology. This sounds like something
Okay,
from
yeah,
a
I know-
satirical
I
film.
know this
It's very
place.
much true. In Chicago, Illinois, a place called Hamburger University was set up in 1961 as a training facility to teach you how to flip burgers. And tens of thousands of students flock here to learn. They can
I don't
teach
think
in
that's
28 different languages
too
how to say,
hard.
would you like fries with that? And they even
Put it on
offer
grill.
college credits.
You flip
Here's hoping
it
someone
and
opens
wait a
video
little
game
while and
university
there
will
you
learn
go.
how to play Tetris and get a degree for it. Number 8. Paying rappers to reference the Big Mac in songs. This is part of their overarching marketing campaign. To subtly wing musicians some nickels merely at the mention of a Big Mac, whether referencing the burger or otherwise, it didn't matter. Every time one of their songs was played with a Big Mac reference, they would receive $5.
Yeah, then they should get the
Which
Travis
adds up
Scott
when you have tons of
burger.
radio stations playing their music. The organization campaigned for commercial-free childhood. Were concerned about getting musical icons
is
to
that
promote
lovely?
unhealthy food. But at least we don't have to hear the latest Bowie album about a man called Mac making it big. Number 7, the Hello Kitty riot. This was a
Oh.
promotion in Singapore to give out Hello Kitty
Oh,
dolls
okay,
just to
well,
break
that-
down. The problem was the dolls were so popular that they exceeded supply, even to the point where people would pay for a meal only to discard it purely so they could keep the doll. It got so bad that there was even a riot where 7 people were injured after the crowd surged through a
What?
plate glass door,
Wow.
shattering it. And it wasn't even the first time.
Yeah,
Apparently
that's
people
Japan for you,
love
Art.
Hello Kitty.
Because Hello Kitty is that
Hot
popular.
coffee lawsuits. This is a
Yeah.
very well-known scandal from the history of McDonald's.
mean,
Where
I
in
don't get it.
1992, a 79-year-old customer
Right, right,
a coffee when she spilled it and gave herself third-degree burns. She sued McDonald's and
Honestly,
won,
I don't
awarded
think
a
that's
grand
the right
total
thing to
of
do.
$500,000.
Because
Very
their
soon
coffee
after,
is
other lawsuits
pathetically
came flying in
stormy.
from people desperate to get their own slice of the legal gold mine. And it continues
I actually wouldn't blame her.
£1 million of McDonald's beef consumed per year. This one is damaging not only to your health, but also to the environment. It's known that McDonald's is the largest purchaser of pork and beef in the US, and over 5 million cattle are consumed at the restaurants annually. It takes 7 billion tons of grain to produce 1 million tons of meat, a huge waste of resources that subsequently leads to deforestation, methane emissions, and heavy chemical use. Number 4, the Paris white McDonald's logo. This one I've seen for myself, a McDonald's in Paris, France, featuring a white
Oh
logo
God,
in
no,
place
not
of the
France.
traditional yellow one. It's actually where I first learned the meaning of the word merci, since it was printed on the McDonald's bins. It's highly uncommon to see any variation of the traditional yellow logo, and the only reason you see it here is because it wants to fit in with the rest of the white street. But you're also going to find McDonald's in Times Square with neon lights, and an Arizonan one with green options. Number 3, the single cheese. This one took place in Holland, where a customer at McDonald's asked for a hamburger, then asked for a separate slice of cheese too. The employee obliged, naturally, but was then fired because they didn't charge the full price for a cheeseburger, simply because they slipped the customer an extra piece of cheese with their hamburger. The employee took McDonald's to court and won nearly $6,000, with the court saying a warning should have sufficed, not termination. Number 2, some of their products bombed. There are enough failed McDonald's products to warrant an entire separate video. Let's focus on one in particular.
Was it good?
Lobster. It was
I never ate it.
essentially a pile of lobster meat slapped into a hot dog bun.
I don't really know
covered in
anyone that
sauce
did.
and
All I
lettuce,
remember is
and
all the
cost
ads.
Okay, what about the
$6.
McRib?
Dressed
I
up
tried it.
sandwich. You can still find these
Yeah,
in some
bad
Macca's
either.
around New England and Canada, but
It's
it never
okay.
took
It's not.
off. McDonald's served
Morgan is only gonna try that if it's like a menu where they have Mountain Dew.
menu with their own
No, I
personal
never.
event.
I really don't eat meat. That's why.
Yeah, he
Indian
would.
chicken maharaja because they generally don't serve beef, or the French stone oven baked ciabatta roll burgers. And of course, in Germany, they also sell beer at Macca's. That's it for
Well,
this countdown. Have a good one,
dang
bro.
shot. There's got to be more.
Yeah, there probably is some business decision. Ooh, business decisions.
DangerDolan. From corporate marketing
That was
that
your
fails
name.
to
Hellbent and
compromising on
Humbug.
liquor ingredients.
Oh yeah, Hillbin is awesome.
15 times companies have made awful decisions for greed, ignorance, or desperation. Number 50. It was 1977. Star Wars hadn't even been released when 20th Century Fox did the dumbest thing ever. They handed all merchandising rights to George Lucas. In return, all they got was a measly $20,000 at the time. But George became the head of a $3 billion plus company with reach all over the globe. Its profits
He played his cards right.
with each passing day. Fox had absolutely no idea what Star Wars would become, and for this blunder, they missed out on claiming one of the most lucrative media franchise trademarks ever. Number 14. Before The Cosby Show passed into the hands of NBC, becoming a huge hit right from the first season, ABC passed on their chance to get a slice of the pie. Cosby made a pitch to ABC for the show, but they wouldn't offer him a commitment without a script or pilot ready. So instead, he turned to NBC, where it catapulted from third in the Nielsen ratings to first for 5 more entire seasons.
True.
It went on to become the biggest hit of the 1980s and almost single-handedly revived the sitcom genre. Number 13, 1981, the blockbuster hit E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Steven Spielberg approached Mars, the confectionery company, to feature M&Ms as a small plot device in the film. The chief executives at Mars declined outright, and the producers behind E.T. were forced to go with their second choice, Hershey and their Reese's Pieces. When the film was released, Reese's Pieces were having dire sales, but then E.T. came along, and sales of the candy tripled, with reorders coming in at as many as 10 times a day for over 2 weeks. Mars, pissed at the missed opportunity, heavily implied they'd never even received an offer. Number 12,
Oh, wow.
Kodak. We're in the age of rapidly advancing technology, with the first digital cameras only appearing in the early 90s. But 15 years earlier, in 1975, Kodak made the world's first ever digital camera with a patent ready for mass production. But they did nothing, and so let their competitors
Shit,
invent
eh?
first. The reason? Kodak didn't want to destroy the film industry and subsequently damage their own company. But had they produced this revolution for mass market, you might have ended up with a Kodak brand smartphone. Instead, they went bankrupt in 2012 and fell into obscurity. Number 11, Schlitz beer. Back in the 70s, Schlitz was one
I
of the
remember
biggest
that.
beer
I see
manufacturing
these in
companies
old
in all of
National
America,
Geographic
only behind
ads.
Budweiser.
Yeah.
Then they made a fatal decision to cheapen the ingredients in order to produce beer faster, which for a while worked quite well. But then people began to notice that the beer would form bloaties in the bottom, which concealed
Ew.
thick mucus, and Schlitz didn't recall them even after they realized. Eventually they had to cave in, but not after 10 million cans had been shipped. crippling their finances and ending
Oh,
their juggernaut company not even 10
I
years
wondered
later.
what happened to
Number
them.
10, it was in the 90s that
Maybe they
search
slit
engines
their
on the
wrists.
internet were verified. Yahoo, Excite, and Lycos. Myself, I used Webcrawler before I got bombarded with ads and paid links when InfoSpace took over. The original owners of Webcrawler, called Excite, were actually offered all of Google for only $1 million, but Excite declined. To pour further salt into the wound, Google lowered their offer to $750,000, but they still weren't interested. Not even 10 years later, Google went public, and today they're earning $60 billion.
A bit too
annually.
big.
Excite ended up getting merged with Ask.com in 2004. Number 9, 1859, back when shovels and picks were the tool of choice to dig up oil. Then along came Edwin Drake and his uncle, who invented the first ever oil drilling apparatus. When Drake approached some salt well diggers with his machine, they laughed and called him crazy. Very soon after, diggers realized how much of a gold mine it was. They rushed in and became overnight millionaires, and poor Drake forgot to patent the machine. But luckily, the state of Pennsylvania oil barons paid him to express their gratitude. Number 8, Western Union, a big name in the communications industry during the late
They've been around for a
1800s,
long time.
with the president infamously scoffing at the idea of a telephone. For $100,000, he could have given a patent that changed the world, but instead he wrote a letter calling the phone invention an electrical toy with no commercial possibilities.
Oh.
2 years later, the president of Western Union realized his gigantic mistake. So spiteful.
Oh, with
that
any
he
invention,
employed
people will
some
scoff
his
at
town
it until, like,
which never really happened.
down the line.
Microsoft Bob. Back before Windows 95,
Oh.
we had Windows 3.1 and this infamous piece of software known as Microsoft Bob. It was like
Oh.
copy from Microsoft Office, but 10 times more insulting. It displayed
The
software
Comic
icons
Sans.
as objects inside a house and was the software responsible for the text font Comic Sans. It might have been decent if it had not come out the same year as Windows 95, which incorporated an easy-to-use interface without the silly, dumbed-down experience. Number 6. There was a time when the corporate giant known as Apple worked in a garage, but when they went to Atari to sell their revolutionary personal computers, Atari said no. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, the founders of Apple, even said, hey, it's built from your parts, and you can have a computer, just let us work for you. But still the answer was no.
Yeah, that iMac
Apple
came
now
in
has a
many
market value
different
in
colors.
hundreds of
Yeah.
billions of dollars, whereas Atari pretty much faded into obscurity. Number 5, 1962, a time before the Beatles were celebrities.
And,
They
Morgan,
were
can you
Decca
pause it for 1
Records in
second?
London, and the
Everybody that will find an iMac and you have like the original software still, and it doesn't work anymore. There's an if you have the back of the screen below at like a strange angle, there's a reset button. You can reset that whole if you press that in. When it's you have to turn on the power, of course, then you have to reset
Yeah.
it. And if you put back the program on it again, it's like it's new.
Awesome.
Yeah. And, okay, continue.
executive of talent rejected their performance. He said to his manager, groups are out, and 4-piece groups with guitars are definitely finished. Unfortunately for him, over 2 billion Beatles albums sold all over the world.
They
during
still sell.
Mania. It's hard to imagine that Coke has been around for over 100 years, but it was hard to foresee
New
that when the
Coke.
producers of Coca-Cola introduced the new
Or-
formula under the brand New Coke, the backlash would be intense. But that's exactly what happened. Despite New Coke tasting fine,
Coke in
the
Germany.
emotional attachment built up over 100 years to make a consistent brand was too deep, and customers exploded with fury. Within 3 months, New Coke was gone, and Coke Classic returned to enormously high sales thanks to the controversy. Some believe it to have been all planned, but it was probably just a happy coincidence. Number 3, a more recent one, the year 2000, when video rental stores were booming, Netflix offered itself to help Blockbuster sell their brand online.
Oh,
Blockbuster did
And
not
now
accept the
Blockbuster
offer, and
only
instead
exists
had a
in
terrible
Alaska.
10 years while
Alaska.
internet movies and TV shows
Yeah.
became a thing. Eventually, they had to
that's the
buy
last place where it can exist.
They could have
Wow.
bought Netflix for $50 million.
Only because of
instead.
them being so
Stubbornness
far
made
from.
them crumble
Oh, I
into
still
stuff.
remember the whole
1972,
location of one of
MASH
ours.
became a surprise
What?
hit for 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, it was,
Awesome show.
Yeah, our old Blockbuster used to be, well, it got torn down now, but it was right next to a Taco Bell that I always go to.
Oh.
And they added in AT&T and Starbucks and crap and a bank, but the bank and the AT&T closed, and now, yeah.
But then a couple of big stars dropped out after a few seasons.
It used to
and
just be
Fox panicked.
Blockbuster and
To
Taco
see
Bell in
the
there.
show would not have long to live.
Nice.
They decided to sell rights for old seasons to various local TV stations, earning themselves $25 million. But then 4 years later, a thing Fox thought extremely unlikely happened. The show was still massively popular. Each TV station grossed over $1 million per aired episode out of 168 of them, and Fox got nothing out of that. Number 1,
Wow.
a story about one of the few times
Oh,
when marketing
God.
fails and customer support wins. A war between Kmart and Walmart in the 1980s. With both
Hey,
companies
Kmart,
deciding to
rest
duke
in
it out,
peace.
Kmart launched
Along
an
with
all-out
Sears,
publicity campaign
which is
to raise
going
public
down.
awareness of their store.
Yeah.
And Walmart, without the funds to beat them, decided to focus on
Do we still have
improving
Woolworth
stock
actually
efficiency
there?
and immediate checkouts.
No,
Walmart
I think
obliterated
it was-
Kmart
We
sales
still have
in the US
Woolworth
simply
over
for good
Yeah,
customer
I
service,
know.
and Kmart has been struggling to keep up ever since. That's it for this countdown. And everyone,
I got it.
Okay. I also now
And I
sort
can
of
prove
found.
it here. Wait. You want to see my shopping bag of Woolworth, Germany? I will turn on the light, by the way.
Alright.
It's a little bit better. Here, we still have the store.
Woolworths. John
Yeah.
Stewart worked at a Woolworths.
See, that's 8. It's
Actually-
12 house.
There might be some stores in some
And then
parts
they
of the
still
country.
they still print on the on its site is since 1879. But now they even put like Woolworth himself on there, and of course the Woolworth building in New York.
The Woolworth building.
Cool, we still when I saw this bag, I thought, wow, this is pretty cool with like the old store on it and the Woolworth himself. I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. But we still have them over here. It's owned by a Japanese company now, I believe.
Yeah,
There might be
actually,
some Woolworths in other parts of the country.
Yeah.
A few of them, though.
Actually, too, we had a video around a place. I don't even remember the name to it. It was right near my house. But yeah, they closed, turned into a grocery store. That closed. Now it's a pharmacy and the dollar store.
Okay.
Or Dollar Tree, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
But yeah.
PlanetDolan.
From strange-looking dogs to Google's newest
Really?
Oh,
Hey there, I'm Hal.
wow.
I'm here to learn you
How
suspiciously amazing
wholesome.
facts that I didn't
Not.
just make up. Number 16. China, the land where
That's why I
white
called the
races
finisher.
bred chicken
I
feet are at
understand.
the lecture dish where dogs are not like your dogs. Actually, I joke. Obviously, these are just China's latest breakthrough in selective breeding. Ignore the Chihuahua's freakish genetic distance from a wolf and behold, the winged Sichuan hound. Named after the place it was made and coincidentally the seasoning it goes best with. Number 15. Once you're done binding and gagging your significant other, why not force feed them some naughty acid and chocolates? But how is that dirty? You might be thinking. Well, my friend, they
Yeah,
don't
it's
just
Hell
milk
Look
your
at that!
You know, that might be one of the most disgusting things I've said here. I'm not sorry. Number 14.
Chinese
You
nutshell.
can't get much more badass than Mr. T with his iconic band with an axe and what looks like a
What?
Star
An
Wars blaster
axe?
pistol. But the
Yeah, what- why an axe
comes
here?
from this. There's a goddamn lightning bolt on his manly neck brace. Number 13. Well, I mean, they're not wrong. Face goes into the face. Maybe it's a restaurant for people who still haven't figured out that concept. Or maybe they saw a bunch of food pictures on Facebook and just kind of flubbed the concept. Number 12. The Punisher is really
Oh,
punishing
God.
people. And what says punishment more than a working
I'm gonna punish you.
Where can I buy this?
Especially if you give a good thrust before ejaculating their body parts.
Maybe you'll have to look up on Alibaba or something.
Number 11. Ooh, gobbles down watermelon. It
What?
makes no
What? It's
sense.
SpongeBob
Take a
Pikachu.
sponge, no pants. The best part is, I wish you have a nice
Yeah, it's
day.
Pikachu and
They
Just
really
SpongeBob.
fun bomb.
looking at this,
Big
I have
sponge,
no
no
idea
hands.
what country this comes from. Might as well be from the moon for all I can tell. Number 10. Still rocking that iPad 6, huh? Me, I like a goop pad. I just appreciate the finer things in life. Every inch of goop pad.
The name.
No, that's not an iPad on the front of the box. That's just your imagination. You know, if you were more intelligent like me,
It's a
you'd be able to see the
rectangle with a
value in this
freaking
product.
Apple-looking
Number 9.
screen on
You
it.
know, I think it's just downright disgraceful that Americans feel the need to just rip off high-quality Chinese cinema like this. Shame on you. It's just sad. Americans can make up their own movies, but they have to go and steal from China. Just so sad.
Even the
You
skunk
know,
hasn't
you
changed.
absolutely have to
Yeah.
rip off Chinese
Skunk,
cinema. At least
skunk.
make your poster look a little bit more realistic. Come on now. Number 8. Harry Obama, Sonic the Pot.
Yeah, I've seen this one.
I don't know.
What?
Your guess is as good as mine. I just hope he doesn't slip in that puddle of urine. Number 7. Michael Soft bin bows.
Bimbos.
Well, I mean, 17 monsters are right out of date. Can't be that much worse than
Wow.
Windows 10. Number
Microsoft.
6. Yes, someone named a candy after the infamous gaping asshole. Yes, it also has the word caramel creams, and yes, you're allowed
Oh
to
my
laugh.
god.
But only because
Oh my
you
god, it's at a
don't
Wawa,
need
that's
to
worse.
remembering that awful image. Number 5. Remember back when iPhones
It's
had
down-
keypads?
it's farther
Those
down
were the
south,
good
other-
days. Back when you could play Snake and Bounce without worrying
They're
about the
Florida.
accuracy of swiping on a touchscreen. Number 4. That's not an Oreo. That's my original cookie Oreo. People really need to get their facts straight. My cookie has a chocolate crunch with a creamy center. Oreos are nothing like that.
It sounds like pretty boring.
New paper towels are as benevolent as its
Google.
internet practices. Instead of cutting down trees and
Oh, hey, with virgin
they're
pulp.
made out of the renewable substance virgin.
You may need it if you Google certain pages.
Number 2. Well, they wrote store properly there on the bottom left, but they couldn't quite get it right where it's most prominent. But if they have good deals on legit electronics, I couldn't care less if they can spell or not.
You know, Stiller is actually in Dutch. It's
Wrigley's Dopey Melon Chewing Gum.
Ooh.
They transposed the L and the I. How on earth do you even do that? They're two different words. Although
Wow.
I guess the spacing would have you believe otherwise.
Regular
Makes me wonder if that's even true.
Oh, hey, with DreamWorks Animation.
It could be
I know.
Thanks to you for watching this counted down. I will see you next team. But please let know down in comments which marvelous product you would want to buy in your
I
mouth.
gotta find more help and stuff. He is hilarious.
I know, I got a whole Hellbent playlist, so all I
Oh,
guess.
cool.
Yeah, it just saves me from having to
Oh,
search
yeah.
it up.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably have a pretty insane playlist right now.
Here we go, Valentine's Day fails. I don't care if it's not February.
PlanetDolan.
From pseudo-romantic dinners to questionable cakes, we count 10 ridiculous Valentine's Day fails. Hey there, I'm Hellbent. I'm here to learn you suspiciously amazing facts that I can just make up. Number 10. Valentine's Day. The time of year of romantic dinners and cheesy lines written on greeting cards. This
And the
person
Care
decided to
Bears.
forgo a greeting card and possibly a romantic dinner and just write the cheesy love line on the inside of a box of chicken nuggets. Though I do know a few people who would much rather have McNuggets than a greeting card, this entire idea would still probably make a few people groan and roll their eyes. Hey, for some, it might even be putting across a message, hey, Porkins, I know you love some fatty fried treats, have some nuggets. I show my affection for you with fatty fried treats because that's all you think about, you fat piece of shit. Number 9. A large part of Valentine's Day is telling your loved one just how much you love and care about them. It's an important time to put your writing skills to the test and make sure you put in every single letter that you mean to write. For example, don't use abbreviations. Write out the entire word, every single one of them. You're probably thinking, that sounds a little bit specific. Well, take a look at this cake. A message like enjoy your BD on Valentine's Day is obviously a Valentine's Day reference, but what if people
Enjoy your Viagra dealer?
Venereal disease.
Actually, I've probably been getting busy with that person since before Valentine's Day, so getting a cake that says enjoy your VD is kinda ominous. In fact, I'm not even putting my mouth near a cake that says VD on it. It could be the cake that has the VD for all I know. Though it's probably innocent, I'd still take a trip over to the clinic to get tested after seeing something like this. And in case you're one of those people who doesn't know what VD stands for, I'll just read it out for you. Enjoy your venereal disease. Number 8. Alright, your spouse treated you to a chicken nugget dinner and ordered you a herpes cake. The line has to be drawn somewhere. Looks like we still haven't crossed that line yet. Well, if you're signing divorce papers instead of a greeting card, you're gonna need a good lawyer. Well, if you live around Vancouver, how about Fred C. Luther? People do get dumped a lot on Valentine's Day, and old Fred here seems to know his business pretty good, so hey, what do you gotta lose, outside of your significant other, I guess? But this might be a bit of a pick-me-up for the single folks out there. I mean, hey, might be completely alone, but at least you're not losing half your stuff. Number 7. Asking your spouse for a divorce on Valentine's Day
Oh,
might
wow.
create a psycho, and that psycho might just become a stalker. If you happen to be such a stalker and it's Valentine's Day, then, believe it or not,
No, I haven't
there's
had that
a card that you can give to the person who you believe is your soulmate. The front of the card reads, stalker is a harsh word. When the card is
It's the
over,
right
it
word.
reads, I prefer Valentine. Well, it's obviously a joke, but the kind of people that exist out there, I find it hard to believe that somebody did take this card very seriously.
I prefer
Crazy
these
people
restraining
aside,
orders.
I still wouldn't count on this card netting you that sweet girl next door.
Or maybe a card that says, this is my no-no square.
Number 6. One of the things couples do on Valentine's Day is have a romantic dinner. They usually take place at a big fancy restaurant to mark the occasion. But times are tough, and going out to La Ravage isn't always an option. And from the looks of things, going to White Castle isn't always an option either, because they're taking reservations. I
What?
can see why it's popular. Some people just like the simple things. or
Hell
maybe they
nah.
prefer French fries and a burger over a big steak dinner. But I think the subtle yet brutal fail here is that they're taking reservations, which means they might run out of room. You botched things up pretty badly if you promised your girl White Castle on Valentine's and couldn't even provide that. Or even worse, hours. Promise your girl you're taking her to the fanciest restaurant in town. She gets all dressed up and ready to be wined and dined, and you pull up to White Castle. It's kind of a cute idea, and I can see why it's popular, but there's so many ways this could go wrong. Just follow the signs advice, get your reservation, and make sure she knows you're going to White Castle. Don't surprise her with this. Just a little detail.
They are good,
Your
though.
local love guru help it. Number 5. Another Valentine's Day fail straight from the bakery, and it also has to do with sex. This time, it's frosted cupcakes arranged to form a heart with true love written in white lettering. Looking pretty romantic.
Oh no! That's my face forward.
Maybe it's just my eyes.
Oh, great. The wiener cake.
Maybe it's a sword protecting his love, or Cupid's arrow, or a big blue dick. It's a big blue dick. Look, I'm doing the best I can to rationalize this, but I don't know about any kind of big blue Valentine's Day love. And it's definitely not
From
Cupid's arrow.
Spaceball.
Maybe it's a sequel to the beanie cake, a year later. Love knows no bounds. And again, just like the beanie cake from earlier, I'm not putting my mouth anywhere near that thing. Number 4. Last baked good on this list, I promise, but a clean one was necessary after the last 2 filthy ones. Here we have a large, delicious frosted cookie. The hearts look like normal hearts, and the colors are appropriate. Everything looks normal.
Yeah,
Until
mime.
the mime written in the
Mime.
center. Instead of
It's supposed to say mine, but it says mime.
Maybe it isn't a fail after all. Maybe it was for
Maybe it was a
two
cookie
mimes,
for
and they
mime
were
artists.
waste
Yeah,
of
that's
money
what I'm saying. Where the
They could
mimes?
just mime out a little heart cookie, no problem. Man, you can save so much money dating a mime. Number 3. A lot of women dream of their men popping the question on Valentine's Day. Lucky for them, some men do. But other men may give their girlfriends a different kind of ring. No, not a phone call. And no, not that other kind of ring you made me thinking about, you pervert. This is the kind of ring that might make their girlfriends wring their necks. Oh, I get it. Wring their necks. Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. Puns aside and to the point, it's a coffee mug, but there's more to
What?
it. The mug comes in a black box, similar to where a ring, including
Wow.
an engagement ring, might be found. When the lid is open, the unlucky Valentine
Oh, that's
may
just
see a
sad.
beautiful ring, only to pull it out and find that it's really a handle to a coffee mug.
Oh,
That's right, a coffee mug that you hold by slipping your ring finger on the handle. If your goal on Valentine's Day is to crush your partner's dreams, this actually might be a good gift, but I would recommend it for anybody making a serious attempt at romance. Number 2, if you couldn't snag that reservation at White Castle, you might consider a quiet night at home. You know what I mean, set the mood, have a nice home-cooked meal, pop in a movie, and cuddle on the couch with your sweetheart. But, if you're going to take that route, make sure the movie is something romantic, or maybe something a little bit lighthearted, maybe even a comedy. Movie selection is important. For example, if you choose a slasher flick and you're not dating one of those weird chicks who's into stabby films, you're probably not going to get too far. While the store didn't suggest a slasher film as a possible option for Valentine's Day movie night, they still failed to double-check what movies were being stocked in the display. Apparently, the movie Unfaithful, starring
Oh,
Richard Gere,
no.
any couple in the
Wow.
Sure,
Oh,
the movie
no.
has romance, but the theme is infidelity. Not some might put on
That's
a
not
romantic
good.
movie. That's more the kind of thing
Wow.
I'd show if I thought they were cheating on me. No, you'd be better off watching awful countdown videos together. Number 1. Valentine's Day doesn't always equate to romance or sex, so it's not unusual for a man to get his mom a card or for a woman to get her dad a card on Valentine's Day. This store either didn't know that or had some pretty perverted people working there.
Oh, no.
On a shelf, there's a sign in the shape of a heart that reads, "Share the love with your dad." And on the shelf,
Oh, wow.
then below that would appear to be
No,
bottles of wine.
no.
I really hope the person who took this picture just took that sign off of another shelf and slapped it.
I
on his
hope it
head.
was only that.
Yeah.
Don't
It's just
ruin
giving people
something.
disturbing visuals about their fathers. Now they might have to arrange a date with their psychiatrist on Valentine's Day. Today's question is kind of related. What's the worst way you found out that you no longer have a romantic partner? And you can interpret that question however you want. Tell us your stories in the Reddit page link below, and you might be
Never had that
featured in the
experience.
countdown.
What about you, Morgan?
And that's all I got for today.
All my exes are crazy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
All
same here.
of them.
The same here.
Well, I mean,
Oh, thank you for becoming a fan. Kelly, the toxic closet monster.
I would also say the ones that freaking dump me because they're dumbasses, but yeah. Here we go. Why not?
Oh boy, where's the Edsel is gonna be on here?
If there's anything by Colin Furs, it would be on this list. The dude's made some crazy vehicles.
Ever since humans came down out of the trees, we've been creating ways to get from A to B as easily and comfortably as possible. But are all vehicles made to be useful? And if we missed a great opportunity just because something looked a little too crazy, here's the top 15 most insane
Oh, I
vehicles
love
ever.
you for that.
I'm hellbent, and Today, I'll be your
I wonder if the Wienermobile
Number
is in there.
15. Riding a unicycle makes you look like a clown or a hipster, but the Rhino actually looks pretty cool. This one-wheeled electric motorcycle will do about 10 miles per hour. It's controlled like a Segway, where you lean forward to accelerate and backwards to brake.
Oh,
Chris
stupid thing the kid was
riding
riding in
in
Lorax.
who had seen one in a video game. Number 14. Ben and Jerry's co-founder
wait, was that JCVD?
wanted to make a prop to comment on the U.S. government's priorities, which seemed to him to be completely upside down. He commissioned art car maker Tom Kennedy to make a topsy-turvy bus, with one bus bolted upside down on top of the other. It's now in the hands of hands-on.
Well, it's handy if you fall off a ravine with the
to run
bus.
educational programs for
Why not always on
Better
the
hope
beach?
it flips over, else you're up a
The
creek.
phrase mobile
There you go.
conjures trailer parks and depressing camping holidays. But the Element Plaza was far nicer than your apartment, and it could drive
Okay, I'll
wherever
take that
neighborhood
car,
it was.
please.
It cost $3 million. It comes
Okay,
with
nope.
real floors. 2 are inside, but the top
That's
can
mine.
control
You know what that
skyline
might-
with the touch of a button. Just don't use it while on the move. Your mojito will go everywhere. Number 12. First appearing in 1962, the Peel P50 is the smallest production car ever made. It was a meter wide, a meter high, and just 1.30 meters long. And it weighed about as much as a teenage boy. A few years later, they made a 2-seater version called the Trident, which featured a
What kind of
futuristic
Call of Duty Black Ops car is
production
this?
stopped in the 60s, but a new business is now making them to order, so you can bash your head in one
New
for just
looking cars,
$16,000.
whatever they're called.
Number 11. Johannes Legender always wanted a fancy sports car, but he couldn't quite get the money together. Instead, he decided to build one himself. The Austrian artist constructed a surprisingly realistic Ferrari frame around a pair of bicycles using plastic tubing and packaging tape to put it all together. He named his creation the Ferrari after the German Fahrrad, meaning bicycle. Number 10. You've probably seen a seaplane before, but
Yeah.
what if you didn't have to stop at the ocean's surface
Well, not
and could dive
locally,
down
but-
beneath the waves? Well, the Reed RFS-1 managed to achieve this weird feat.
They have to have all the
Kinda.
in
You'd
Alaska.
have to land on the water first, then go about removing the propeller and covering the engine. It only managed to fly about 25 meters, but this was just built by one guy with a very limited budget. But the idea didn't sink entirely. In 2008, the U.S. Defense Department asked for bids to make a submersible aircraft. Number 9. This may look like a normal bike, but it has one simple difference. When you turn the handlebars left, the wheel turns right. The bike was created by the team at the YouTube channel Smarter Every Day. The amazing thing is that this
of
one
course.
simple change makes the bike almost impossible to ride.
That's
Researcher
dangerous.
Dustin practiced for 5 minutes every
Okay.
day, and it took him about 8 months to be able to use it. Number 8. Naboo's parasol was designed to take off and land within a very small space. It had a circular wing, which made it very easy to control, and said most people could learn the skill in just half an hour. The name comes because the wing shape meant it would float down to Earth like a parachute, even if the engine's cut out. They proved this in testing. But the high drag really limited the speed, so it never got beyond the prototype stage. Number 7. Cable cars can be a pretty intense experience for
Oh, man, I hate being on this
but at
thing.
least there's always a good thick layer
Yeah, I
of
mean, I'm
metal
used to
glass
them.
between
Oh,
you
God.
and the drop
I haven't
to your
been on them
death.
that much.
But the Cabrio can go convertible.
You know what's this French movie where they were in the ambulance that happened in Top Gun? Oh my God, scared.
You know Disney actually brought theirs back.
Yeah?
Well, the bottom floor is made
Yeah.
of glass. So
Like, you guys heard of, like, in the 50s, that incident happened where basically, what, a dude fell off and then they closed it down for good, pretty much? Yeah.
Maybe.
They brought those things back when I was there.
Oh.
good luck
Like,
with that.
you could go park the park in them.
Number
Don't do
6.
that crap.
Bill Weaker and Duncan Foster came up with the answer to a question not many people were asking. Can you take a hot tub for a spin? They converted a 969 Cadillac coupe to Bill into a hot tub on the moon, giving it a watertight steering
Dude,
system,
cheapo version,
recycling
you
some
have
of
to
the
truck
engine
in a
heat
tar.
from the water. Just don't ask where they keep their license and registration. Number 5. If you've ever watched Star Wars, you'll be familiar with the idea of a large craft having a fleet of small fighters to protect it. Well, the McDonnell XF-85 Goblin was designed at the end of World War II as a so-called parasite fighter, which would be kept inside of a B-36 bomber and then released through the bomb bay doors if enemy fighters were spotted. It never saw combat since the Air Force figured out a way to refuel their fighters while flying. They also never managed to find a good system to recover the Goblin from the air. Number 4. Swedish artist Michael Johansson created a supersized toy with his boat named Toys R Us. All the necessary parts of a regular boat had been laid out around it and attached together if it were a life-sized model. It's all covered in a matching coat of plastic paint to complete the look. He's also done the same procedure with the bike. Number 3. For most train spotters, and we mean the actual ones, not the Scottish heroin ones,
The excitement is in finding the specific model numbers and configurations. But almost everyone would be thrilled to come across the M497 Black Beetle. In the 60s, the train companies knew they'd long lost the long-distance market to aircraft. So, to make the short and medium journeys faster, they decided to adopt the same jet engine strapped to the top of the train. The Black Beetle was never used in public, but it still holds the American train speed record of 295.88 kilometers per hour. Number 2. Self-driving cars are no longer a future concept. They'll be appearing on roads in increasing numbers soon. But the same may also be true of the self-driving motorbike. Honda's new bike self-balance was designed to keep riders safe at low speeds when the bike is less stable and more likely to topple. Rather than using gyroscopes, a computer takes control of the wheels to automatically balance the weight. Number 1. Chrysler had long been looking into the turbine engine since World War II. The aim was to replace piston engines with this much more simple spinning plate system. There were a lot of benefits. It had fewer moving parts, it could start easily in cold weather, last longer, and it could run on almost any fuel. So when the Chrysler turbine appeared in 1964, this fuel claim was tested in what sounds like a series of national stereotypes. In France, they filled it with Chanel No. 5, and in Mexico, the president drove it around filled with tequila. The car was filled, not the president, I think.
Okay. That was...
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah, guys and girls, I'm going to bed. It's
Okay.
You.
5 o'clock in the morning. It was a lot of fun, and I already took a nap, so
Alright.
yeah. Have a great night, and see you next time.
Alright, bye. How is Nate?
What?
How's Nate?
The last time I heard from him, he was spotted on one of my Instagram stories, but I haven't heard from him since. I haven't even seen him around on here, like, in 2 weeks. Like, last time I really saw him was for Piano stream, I want to say. That really, he just hasn't been around. Which is, yeah. I don't know what's happening.
PlanetDolan.
From inappropriate costumes to clumsy decorations, we count 15 of the worst Halloween fails. Hey there, I'm Hellbent. I'm here to learn you suspiciously amazing facts that I didn't just make up. Number 15. Some costumes are for kids and some are for adults. Want to take a wild bet as to who this was intended for? Dressing your sweet little boy as condom packaging is a little tasteless. But hey, I'll say sex sometime. Number 14. Ebola found itself in the USA back in 2014, and 3 people came down with it. During that time, people around the world were in a state of fear that a deadly disease could be knocking on their door any time. So it would seem obvious to play on people's fears of getting seriously ill by creating a sexy Ebola nurse costume. And for only 45 pounds, it can be yours. Can you really put a price on terrorizing and offending your entire neighborhood? I don't think so. Number 13. Cat ears are pointy, unlike a mouse. This is something kids might learn in kindergarten, if not earlier. The employees at this company must live pretty sheltered lives to not know the specific shapes of animals' ears. Even then, at least one of them should have had a pet cat or seen a mouse or an episode of Tom and Jerry something. Or maybe they're from a region with some really fucked up looking animals. Perhaps Pokemon corrupted them? I don't know. Number 12. Do you remember dressing up as your favorite character by wearing a shirt with the character's picture on it? Most people probably don't. This alleged vampire costume only has a cartoon drawing of a vampire on the front and nothing else. Either a company had a huge warehouse full of vampire shirts, or they just couldn't quite cobble something together for the Halloween season. Well, at least they got it out in time. Number 11. That baby's face says it all. The parents probably thought their child's cute and more appropriate chicken costume needed something more. So they decided on a chest burster from the Aliens movies instead of, say, something that actually has something to do with chickens. Number 10. Many elderly people live their final years in nursing homes, so they don't need any reminders that death may just be around the corner. This Halloween decoration depicting a graveyard does just that, unfortunately. I'm not an expert decorator, but you could go with like cats, pumpkins, witches, bats, anything that doesn't remind them of the ever-looming threat of death over their shoulders. Oh, maybe it's their idea. Maybe it's a little bit of a hidden message, just to let us know they're ready for it to end. Number 9. There seems to be a lot of these easy-to-follow recipes for holiday-themed foods throughout the year. Professionals make it look easy, but for amateurs, it's a different story. This ghostly cupcake with whipped cream for the ghost body and what appear to be M&Ms for the eyes looks easy enough to make, until you look at the picture on the right. Then again, the concept of killing a ghost through bakery is kinda spooky. Number 8. Yet another packaging failed by a costume company. This one is probably a little bit more embarrassing. Here we see what looks like a sexy Dark Angel costume. Nothing wrong there. Until you read the name of the costume. At least the other two costume companies mentioned earlier knew how to spell. Or maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe it's a geometry demon. I'm going to corrupt you with a dog I saw somebody's trying. Number 7. Shopper's eyes may gloss over a misspelling on the packaging of a costume, but with large displays like this, it's kinda hard to miss. Here we see a large Halloween display that misspelled spooky by putting a P where the K should be. The display goes on to say you won't believe your eyes, and we agree. Number 6. There are some scary animals that have become synonymous with Halloween. These include spiders, bats, black cats, and flamingos. Wait, flamingos? Well, this one company came out with a Halloween decoration that features 2 flamingos painted in the traditional Halloween colors. While it deserves some points for originality, you're not likely to see a flamingo hanging in your attic or at a witch's side. Maybe in the back of an overstocked warehouse, though. Number 5. Another Halloween misspelling, only here an extra P was added instead of an E. What appears to be a giant chocolate chip cookie with frosting and a black plastic spider is ruined by this embarrassing misspelling. Probably still tastes good, though. Number 4. This is proof that even Christmas decorations want to get in on the fun of Halloween. The owners of this snowman yard decoration probably thought the figure wanted to go as Frankenstein. Maybe these people should put a little more effort into their Halloween decorations next year, but to each their own. Number 3. When some kids go out on Halloween, they either get candy or something not edible. Some kids have gotten treats such as crayons, stickers, erasers, and even socks. The kids that came to this house got something edible but far from sweet. Fucking pickles! How many kids want pickles as Halloween treats? The note asks the trick-or-treaters to only take one. Don't worry about that, homeowners. Kids aren't greedy when it comes to shrunken cucumbers soaked in dill and vinegar. Number 2. A lot of dog owners enjoy dressing their poochies in costumes for Halloween. Some are good, some are bad, and some are downright psychotic. Some also fail, like this one. Not sure if the T-Rex is supposed to be eating the dog or humping him. The dog even has a Hail Mary expression on his face. Number 1. There are a lot of talented pumpkin carvers out there. Triangular eyes and noses and a boat-shaped mouth are things of the past. People these days take it to a whole new level. This person wanted to be one of those people, but unfortunately didn't possess the skill set. What should have looked like a depiction of Thomas the Tank Engine came out looking like either a robot's face or an ordinary locomotive, depending on your perception. Alright, new question. What's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you at a party? Let us know on the Reddit page linked below, and you might be featured in a future countdown. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah, people really thought it was a chick.
I think I'm going. Cooking bagel.
PlanetDolan.
From unicorn penis cakes to actual science fiction nightmares, we count 10 of the worst ever cooking fails. Hey there, I'm Hellbent. I'm here to learn you suspiciously amazing facts that I didn't just make up. Number 10. Whoever made this cake thought it would be a great idea to build their young child a delicious castle out of dicks. I'm guessing it was supposed to look like a magical fairy tale Disney castle, but instead it came out looking like 3 erect unicorn penises with tiny dancing princesses around them. The base of the cake seems perfectly smooth, but the towers, or shafts as they were, are wrinklier than an old man's trouser snake. The chef of this cake might want to go see a gardener about his flower warts. I don't think a real princess wants anything to do with that. Number 9. I got a strong feeling this snack was thrown together at about 4 a.m. after a long night of partying. The person responsible has spared no expense in preparing this delicious 5-star meal. After finding the nearest paper plate, the hungry chef located 2 taco shells. After realizing he has no taco ingredients because he's probably a poor university student who spent all of his money on beer, this crafty chef then chose to literally throw canned spaghetti in the vague direction of the taco shells. I'm no master chef, but I think this might be the finest dish the world has ever seen. Number 8. We've all made lazy meals before. You know, where you just slap a few ingredients together and call it a dish. But this is a whole new level of laziness. The chef didn't even try to give a fuck. I mean, I get it. You work with what you got. You got some cheap-ass American cheese that has no flavor and some pasta, so you try to mix them together. But the whole mixing them together thing was too much for this person. Let's just dump a bunch of cheap cheese on there. Here you go. Enjoy your macaroni. Fuck it. What's that? You want dessert? Well, I got this cup of water and some sweetener. Here you go. Everything's fine. Life is great. This really is the culinary equivalent of a complete mental breakdown. I'm not even sure if those noodles are cooked. They may just be slightly heated. You know how some people say this dish was made with love? This was made with a crippling existential crisis. What is life? Number 7. Are we looking at the start of a meal or the aftermath of a meal? It looks like somebody poured cereal into a tray of vomit and shat beans in it. Nice try with the spoon. Even with that there, I still don't believe that anybody ate this. Not willingly anyways. This looks like some kind of messed up college prank where you blindfold somebody and say, yeah, we're gonna give you a nice big spoon of lasagna. Here you go. You never forget your freshman year. Still, that's disgusting. And if you think it looks delicious, you're a fucking liar. Number 6. There's a lot of different ways you can cook spaghetti, but I'm pretty sure this isn't one of them. It is a good way to make a house fire, though. I didn't even know spaghetti could be that flammable. Did they just leave the pot boiling for like an hour, then just put the spaghetti in there and think, the rim won't light it on fire, this is good, everything's fine? I genuinely hope this is just a picture of somebody taking a cigarette lighter up to a bunch of noodles. If not, the mere fact these people are allowed to have a stove is a danger to society. An ape with a box of hand grenades is more trustworthy than these people with any sort of flammable substance. Case in point, their first reaction to a kitchen fire is, oh look, the spaghetti's on fire, get a camera, we're gonna post it on the interwebs. Number 5. Maybe I'm being a bit hypercritical, but I think the person who attempted to recreate this beautiful rainbow jello cake may have misread the instructions a little bit. After botching several of the layers, the indented cake imploded on the hopeful chef, leaving clouds of colored gelatin all over the kitchen. I'll give them some credit. This looks significantly more difficult than boiling noodles, but this one was probably doomed from the start. It looks like a unicorn puked into a cake mold. But to give credit where it's due, they at least tried something reasonably complex, and it's not on fire. Number 4. The Great Gatsby, a timeless book and a horrifying failure in cake form. F. Scott Fitzgerald's famous novel has had some very interesting artistic interpretations over the years, but this one definitely takes the cake. Get it? Because it's cake. Maybe it was made for a Gatsby-themed party, but for whatever reason, someone thought it'd be a great idea to take an ugly book cover and make it into an even more terrible-looking cake. Hey, at least they nailed the font. I welcome death. Number 3. Here's another example of a delicious rainbow dessert that failed miserably. The original cake is a beautifully segmented masterpiece, but at least the weird, saggy, multicolor attempt this person made still looks edible. Maybe some of these recipes should list 20 years of cake-making experience alongside the required flour, eggs, and rainbow food coloring. Part of me thinks it looks like Play-Doh, but another part of me is still okay with eating it. I mean, it doesn't look like it's been on fire at any point, at least. Number 2. Justin Bieber's apparently still famous for some reason, and people will still do anything to get near him, including eating a meat version of his head. For some inexplicable reason, this cake was baked in a very realistic image of Bieber's annoying face. And what's worse, it appears to be made out of minced meat and bacon. It's truly terrifying. And what's with the hard hat? Are they expecting an explosion? Are they building a house? I'm confused. Any dessert for you, Bob? Nah, thanks. I'm full of the decapitated head of an overrated pop star. But hey, come over next week. The wife's cooking up what's left over One Direction. Number 1. You know you're bad at cooking when you accidentally create a burning mutant life form. Not quite sure what this chef was intending to cook, but they absolutely ruined it, whatever it was. Looks like a friggin' sci-fi monster. Maybe there are billions of little extraterrestrial arachnids waiting to hatch out of the mucous membrane. Or maybe, now just hear me out here, the woman who concocted it may need to learn a little bit more about cooking. Just a theory. I guess if you never try, you never learn, but you really don't want to learn that lesson with fire, because instead of learning, you might be burning.
What's up, Bacon Smart?
That joke is almost as bad as this person's cooking. Have any cooking stories of your own? Let us know on the Reddit page linked below, and maybe you'll be featured in an upcoming countdown. But that's all for now, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah, this is the last one, dude. The name, yeah, crap.
DangerDolan. From guns on your belt to rockets that explode to a billion pieces to get 15 outrageously harmful children's toys. Number 50. Battlestar Galactica Colonial Viper. Here we have the toy that actually started the choking hazard trend. The vehicle itself is fine, but the pretend laser torpedo is the problem here. Some 4-year-old kid shot it down his throat, possibly because he was trying to swallow the whole ship. He then promptly choked to death. Mattel, the producers of the toy, was sued, and ever since, all small toys need a bright sticker on it that says, "Don't try to eat this, you fool." Number 14. Creepy Crawlers, 1964. What kind of toys do kids want these days? Oh, I know. An oven that produces unbearable 150 degrees of skin-peeling heat. They'll love it. The Creepy Crawler oven had little kids molding spiders and bugs out of plastic and heating them up to solidify. Unfortunately, it exerted toxic, deadly fumes and burned the flesh off kids' hands because they could reach in at any time to fiddle with the hot plate. Number 13. Austin Magic Pistol, the 1950s. Every kid likes a pretend pistol, but only hardcore kids can wield this explosive hand cannon that shoots actual fireballs. It's designed to propel ping pong balls by mixing calcium carbide with water, which then creates a flaming explosion, which, when you really break it down, is essentially a gun. Apparently in the 1950s, it was totally fine to sell children a gun. But I guess when you look at how many school shootings there have been lately, has anything really changed? Number 12. Hannah Montana Pop Star Card Game. What could possibly be dangerous about a simple card game? Are paper cuts really that bad? No, try the second most deadly household toxin in existence, lead. These cards contain 75 times more lead than the law-permitted maximum, and even after we discovered this fact, they still hadn't been taken off the shelves. Why? Because the lead was found in the vinyl, not inside the paint, and thus there was a loophole in the regulations. Thanks, Miley Cyrus. Number 11. Cabbage Patch Snack Time Dolls. Like something out of a Goosebumps horror novel, these dolls will mechanically chew any substance that makes its way into its mouth. They were originally supposed to pretend to eat plastic foods, but they soon began feasting on little kids' fingers. One girl who was virtually scalped along the back of her head when a doll started gnawing at her hair. And the most chilling part, these dolls have no off switch. The only way to stop their carnivorous rampage is to smash them into dust. Number 10. Belt guns. In the 50s, kids were able to replace the buckle on their belt with this contraption, in which you thrust at your stomach and a miniature gun pops out. 5 small pellets. The problem was it was also a cap gun, so it would make an exploding sound. Fortunately, some unlucky kids had it randomly explode on their schlong. You don't exactly look manly when you thrust forward and an exploding belt burns your dick off. We have a word for that. It's called stupid. Number 9. Slip and slide. A lot of people have played on one of these. For the most part, it's fine for kids, unless you've got to moisten the slide enough, in which case it becomes a slip and go to the hospital. Now the problem comes in when a teenager or adult tries to use it. Since the slide is so short and the stop is so incredibly abrupt, a number of adults have been paralyzed from spine damage. I would make a witty comment here, but I think we should take a moment to feel sad about all these ruined lives of folks who died by a sloppy ride on the slip and slide. Number 8. Sky Ranger Park Flyer Radio Control Airplanes. All remote control airplanes have the potential to hit some elderly people, break their face, or kill them to death. The Sky Ranger is particularly nasty. Instead of merely hitting people and stunning them for a moment, the Sky Ranger will hit you and explode into a ball of flame, with reports of burns, eye lacerations, and permanent deafness. It's a great way to spend your weekend. Number 7. Magnetics. This was a building set like magnetized Legos, which you break them open and a bunch of small magnets will fall out. Kids would naturally eat these, and they would connect with each other through the tissue walls inside your body, joining the intestines, the vital organs, squeezing them together. After one baby died, the manufacturer said, "No, that doesn't happen." No, sir. After 34 more kids were injured, they were pulled from store shelves and rebranded as Magnext. Number 6. Splash-off water rockets. 1997. For a short period, stores sold this portable death trap, a rocket you fill with water until the pressure builds up too much and it rockets off. Unfortunately, the rocket would often not take off, and instead detonates, hurling shards of now deceased rocket throughout the flesh cavities of your small children. At least 37 accounts of people suffering lacerations to various body parts were recorded. I'd love to see how these guys would fare working for NASA. I'd have to be able to build half a ladder without it exploding in an astronaut's face. Number 5. Moon shoes. Oh, what's that? You've got ADD so intense that you need to bounce around the neighborhood on trampoline shoes? Awesome. Here's a pair made entirely of metal. Ones that could cave in a dog's rib cage with minimal effort, so you can dance around the streets like an idiot. Oh no, you've broken your ankle because you didn't land properly. I'm sure that won't happen again 500 more times. Uh-oh, you misjudged your jump and you fell off a cliff. What a loss. Number 4. Gilbert Glass Plumbing. The 1950s, a time before toy manufacturers developed a fully formed adult brain. Some marketing wizard decided the young boys need to learn how to heat glass at 500 degrees Celsius with no safety equipment or supervision. Now, as long as you read the instruction book back to front, wore fireproof gloves and prayed to Satan that the flimsy plastic goggles would protect your eyes from searing molten heat, everything would turn out fine, right? Spoilers? No. Number 3. Lego Kite Tube. An inflatable tube that a boat would pull behind to make it fly like a mid-air surfboard. It works, for sure. Too well, though. It would soar 30 feet in the air, a child would fall off, land on anything but water, and die. People who have bought this product were likely unaware that there's a similar thing. It's called a jet ski. The main difference being that you won't fall 30 feet and die. Number 2. Soccer boppers. Gotta get them kids trained up for their glorious boxing careers. We can't practice with lame pillar fights, oh no. Let's give them some inflatable pain devices and let the kids fuck each other up. They were advertised as safe wrestling toys, and they very quickly became violence enablers, doubling the impact for a fist, but with all the force of a punch coming at you endlessly. Oh hey, how did your son die again? That's right, we bopped him to death. We bopped his goddamn face off. We all had fun, and that's what counts. Number 1. Fisher-Price Power Wheels motorcycle. You might think, oh, a motorcycle for kids? What could possibly go wrong? But it's actually surprisingly safe. Kids just